wounded militia members were sprawled out along the floor and on the couches and beds, lying in agonizing pain. The floor and walls had become stained with their blood. Most of the militia members who were not injured were tending to the wounded, while the remaining were on patrol around the property per Butler's orders. They were ready for any kind of a counterattack by the Parkers, or by anybody else for that matter. There was only a limited number of medical supplies in the cabin, RV, and shed, and all of it had already been used on those in the most critical of condition. Mitchum's reinforcements and resupply was being anxiously awaited as a result. Butler had his shoulder bandaged and his arm in a sling, and though his shoulder was in a world of hurt, he ignored it as best he could. He was very adept at resisting physical pain, but this gunshot wound was challenging him. Butler was sitting on the front porch of the cabin and drinking water from the kitchen to hydrate himself when he saw Mitchum return with the 4 vehicles at around midday. In addition to 30 extra militia members who he had brought as reinforcements, he also brought all 4 of the compound's medical professionals, each carrying containers filled to the brink with bandages and medical supplies. They immediately began working on treating the wounded men and women in the cabin. Also among Mitchum's reinforcements was George. "Dad!" The 19-year-old exited one of the vehicles and ran up to the cabin. Butler stepped up to greet him.
"I told you to stay back and run the compound," Butler said.
"I know, but Mitchum told me you had been shot, so I got over here as soon as I could," George responded. "And don't worry, I left it in good hands."
Butler put a hand on his son's shoulder. He was appreciative of his concern. Gale was there too and gave his brother a hug, both glad the other was alive and safe.
"How many of our number are dead?" George asked. "Mitchum said it was at least 24. Is that really true?"
"It is, son,"
said Butler.
"That damned family gave us a fight for our lives. Many more are wounded, as you can tell. We'll need to patch them up as best we can and then begin transporting them back to the compound for additional medical help."
"He also said they got away," George said.
"We killed 1 and wounded 2 at least," Gale spoke up. "We'll launch a pursuit soon. They can't have gone far. And they're critically low on resources. There's hardly any food or medical stuff left in this cabin of theirs."
"This is our cabin now," remarked Butler. "It will serve as a good outpost for us later on once we get this situation taken care of."
"You mean after we eliminate the rest of the Parker family?" George said.
"That's right,"
said Butler with a grin, glad to see his youngest son was equally eager to see the Parkers finished off. "So, where do we go from here?" Gale asked. "What's our strategy?" Butler rubbed his shoulder and sat down back on the chair on the front porch of the cabin. He indicated for Gale and George to sit next to him. Before they sat down, George noticed that Gale was now wearing a black leather gun belt with a Colt 1911 .45, K-bar knife, and a few spare magazines. Little did he know, it had all belonged to Randall before.
"Nice gun and belt. Where'd you get it?" George asked.
"One of the guys found it in one of the trucks the Parkers stole from us." Gale beamed proudly as he drew the 1911 from its holster and looked it over, admiring the high-quality craftsmanship that had gone into it. "Must have been one of theirs, but it's mine now."
"Nice find,"
George remarked, jealously.
"Mitchum, bring a map over here,"
Butler called out. Mitchum pulled a map out of one of the vehicles and stepped over to the 3 on the deck, which he sprawled out on the table.
"My guess is the Parkers are going to retreat to a small town of some kind in the north," Butler said, looking over the map. "Hope, Garden City, and Featherville are all within 20 miles.